welcome, welcome.
Thanks.
As
Thanks for having us.
Yes, as I mentioned, PDX Climbers of Color, you guys had an event at Basecamp Brewing. It felt like, close to 100 people came out. The place was filled.
Yeah, the energy was so good.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a fundraiser and a trivia night. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so we hosted an event called Beta Bust, a climbing trivia and raffle fundraiser, and essentially it was to be able to raise funds for our climbing group so that we could hire guides and help subsidize and pay for classes for folks who are new to climbing and interested in getting in the outdoors.
Yeah. And it's a great mission, and so let's talk about it, PDX Climbers of Color. Yeah, so it's a Portland group.
It's a Portland-focused group.
Yeah, focused on people of color in the outdoors.
Yes.
Yeah, tell me about your history with climbing. When were you introduced to climbing?
Me, my history of climbing. So I got exposed to climbing, probably around a decade ago. My sister gave me a pair of climbing shoes, which didn't make much sense to me because I lived in Chicago, and there aren't, if you're like from the Midwest, there aren't many rocks. But I, at the time, was going to the University of Illinois, which is even flatter than Chicago. It's like surrounded by cornfields. And so I would go to this gym that was in Bloomington. No, what is that? I don't remember the name of the town. But it's where Illinois State University is. And there's this super rad gym that is made out of old grain silos. So there's these routes that go way up into, what was old grain silos. And so that's where I started climbing. But I didn't get more into it until I traveled to New Zealand where I studied abroad. So I got exposed to outdoor climbing there, but didn't get really into it until I moved here. And so have been climbing more seriously for the last 2 years or so.
Yeah.
Long-winded answer.
Well, and let's talk about the elephant in the room. You cater to a specific audience. People of color. And let's talk about the importance and why we should focus in on people of color being exposed to climbing.
I think it's all about access. It's giving folks who are interested in being able to climb the opportunities to do so despite whatever economic or social barriers are there. And let's be frank, they exist, right? It's expensive to go to a gym. The gear is expensive. Oftentimes these spaces are super white dominated, which can be not the most comfortable.
Almost intimidating.
Yeah, really intimidating for sure. And so I think that the focus of our group is to help create an atmosphere for folks who are interested in the sport or who have been in the sport for a while and just always felt a little not super comfortable. So making it more comfortable, taking up space in spaces that we tend to not.
And how long have you been doing this as a group?
I'd say so it started off as a Facebook group about 2 years ago by my friend Chris Guillen. About 6 months ago, we started collaborating with the local gyms to be able to host POC-focused climb nights. And so since then, the group has really just gained a lot of momentum. There's a lot more folks who are coming on out. And just a lot more events to kind of get involved in, a lot more initiatives for us to, just kind of put our energy into. So.
Tell me about the outreach, because I know you've grown a lot in the last 2 years. And I know you have people, you're talking to people who are first being introduced to climbing, which, much like anything else, another layer on top of that is it's an intimidating sport. You're climbing hundreds of feet up a wall. Tell me about the outreach, some of the new people who have come and how you've introduced them to climbing.
So I would say that the outreach comes a lot from, I think, word of mouth. So it's oftentimes folks knowing someone else who is a climber. I think I personally have done outreach to my other POC-focused groups aren't necessarily climbing focused and kind of have spread the word about this opportunity to try something new. So I think that it's there's a myriad of ways. A lot of
Yeah.
times I do think it's about knowing someone who's already within the sport.
Right.
And I think that kind of goes, that's kind of the case for a lot of folks, like
Yeah.
whatever your background is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's different types of climbing. There's bouldering gyms, there's rappel walls, and then there's
Yeah.
outdoor climbing.
Yeah.
You participate in a lot of the gyms here in
Yeah.
Portland. Tell me a bit about some of the events that you do.
Yeah, so we have 3 POC-focused climb nights that take place at Portland Rock Gym, the Circuit, and Planet Granite. And I just want to take this moment to like give them all a shout out for being
Yeah.
super positive and like just supporting our mission. We really like can't do it without them. So thanks y'all.
Yeah?
Do people do this anymore?
Yeah.
Like is raising the roof a
Raise
thing?
the roof, everybody.
I don't know where that came from, but anyhow, so they all have agreed to kind of like allow us to host a POC climb night and giving us a reduced rate of entrance, really reducing that like economic barrier for folks. And so if you follow us on Instagram or any other social media, you could find out the dates. But the long and short is that Portland Rock Gym is the first Monday of the month. The Planet Granite is the second Wednesday of the month, and the Circuit is tied together with the POC Soak Night that happens at Common Ground. That's like super sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, FYI. And that happens on the third Wednesday of the month.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you're giving access to a lot of people. Tell me a bit about your relationship with climbing and what you've gained while facing those walls.
Yeah. I think what I've gained from climbing, and I mean, it's just, I think it's another form of like self-expression in a lot of ways. Like I'm really obsessed with like movement of all sorts. I like can't really sit still. As like you all could probably tell right now. I'm really into dance, and so I feel like climbing has also been a way that I can, be really in tuned and present within my body.
Yeah.
In addition to that, there's just like this really beautiful relationship that can occur. It's like a super intimate relationship that happens between you and the rock, and particularly when you're outdoors, right? Like you get to have these really like unique experiences, and it's just like you and like this cliff, right? And like a really unique experience in that like you would not see what you see, like the view that you have, you could not get anywhere else other than like this point on a cliff, and like that's just like, it's amazing, and I particularly love plants. I do ecological restoration as a living, and like I love climbing allows me to be able to see where plants grow that like you would never like experience otherwise. Like when like a big ass bush can just like can just grow out of the side of the cliff, you're like, what? Like you're amazing. Like you're
you're introduced to different ecospheres as you're climbing up and getting higher and higher.
Yeah, so it's just like this moment to really observe the world around you, while you're like terrified.
Totally.
And so that's interesting.
Totally. Do you have any walls that you're really looking forward to climbing?
Ooh, well, I recently did a climb that I was really stoked about called Flyboys, which is like this 18-pitch route on the goat wall up in the Mazamas, and that area is just like absolutely beautiful. So even if you don't climb, if you're just like a hiker, like go up there. It's a really inspiring, beautiful place. But what I would love to get on, I'm planning a trip out to Red Rocks.
Okay.
And there's
Nevada.
Yeah, up in Nevada, and so there's like some routes out there that I'm just like super stoked about, and that rock is really different. It's like red and beautiful and just like feels like you're on another planet, so really excited to explore that more.
Well, Anne Marie, I'm super stoked to have you on this show.
Stoked for you!
And talk about your group, because for me, I wasn't introduced to the outdoors until I moved up here to Oregon, and I found those precious moments in the outdoors. And my dad didn't fish. He didn't do, any outdoors things. He grew up in Watts. He saw no reason for me to join the boys, Boy Scouts. So it's kind of, it's an interesting perspective for me to come up here and learn about the outdoors. And for me, it took some grit to like just kind of go. And I love that you are facilitating a space that feels welcoming for a lot of people who feel uncomfortable in Portland in their own skin, in the outdoors. You're facilitating a place, where they could truly grow and they could face adversity on the wall, which becomes analogous to life. And I just thank you so much for your work, and I think it's beautiful. So for my audience here and my audience at home, how can they find you online?
Oh, yeah. So we have an Instagram page. Is it a page?
Yeah.
Instagram page. And it's PDX Climbers of Color. We also have a Facebook page also called PDX Climbers of Color. And we are slowly working on a website.
Okay.
But I would say that those first two things are the easiest way to find us at this point.
And where's the best place to find your events, for future events?
Yeah, so coming on up is Portland Rock Gym, and then the week after that, Planet Granite, and the week after that, the circuit in the Northeast.
Anne Marie Santos, thank you so much for coming out. Everybody give a hand for PDX Climbers of Color. Marvin, take it away.